Welcome to the Young Filmmakers Project. I'm Megan Bina.
And I'm Max Abel. We're going to be showing you work we've done this year in our video production class at Vancouver School of Arts and Academics. Every high school and most middle schools have video production programs where students learn how to shoot and edit video, write scripts, build graphics, and do live shows.
While they do all that, they're also building teamwork skills like communication, problem solving, and more. These programs are part of the district's Career and Technical Education Department.
Both Megan and myself, in order to graduate, created senior projects. It's part of our graduate requirements for all seniors at VSAA. Megan, why don't you tell us about your project?
Sure. I've always had an interest in stop-motion animation, so for my project, I wanted to learn how to make my own. Hello, my name is Megan Bina, and for my senior project, I experimented with stop-motion animation. You know, movies like these.
Boys and girls of every age, wouldn't you like to see something strange? Come with us and you will see. This our town of Halloween. This is Halloween, this is Halloween. Pumpkins scream in the dead of night.
This is gonna be good.
Hit it, boys.
I've grown up loving these movies, so I wanted to try this out for myself. What makes these characters come to life is what's on the inside. No, I'm not talking about heart or love or whatever gushy people like. I mean skeletal structure, which for puppets is otherwise known as an armature. Thus, I decided to create my own. Here's my very first attempt at stop-motion animation. And here's some other examples of animations I did. I even did one with a green screen and tested keying out the background. And that photo in the background is of, big surprise, cemetery. With these animations that I created, I had a few issues that sort of took away from the realism. I had a few jumps in the animations where the table or camera was bumped, some of the timing was a bit off, and sometimes the lighting would flicker. Not everyone might notice this, but I decided I wanted my animations to look as real as possible. Now here's my attempt at animating clay without all the shake and flicker, and with the correct timing. And if you're wondering how I made the ball float, well, here's what the photos looked like before I edited them. Here's what it looks like in ones, which is 1 frame per photo, and here's what it looks like in twos, which is 2 frames per photo. Now I have a final short scene that I shot with my armature and several set pieces that I built. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.
That was awesome. You brought your stop motion equipment. Could you show us a little bit of how it works?
Yeah, so basically I created a whole bunch of different set pieces that were inspired by some of my favorite stop motion films, since I've grown up loving stop motion films since I was a kid. And I actually used spray foam that expands and hardens, and then I carved it out and I spray painted it and added like moss for detail so I could make it look realistic but still have like a stylized aspect to it. And then my dad helped me build this table, which is actually, it's perfect for stop motion animation because when you have characters and objects, a lot of times you have to tie them down so they can hold their own weight. So basically with this aluminum sheeting, there's a bunch of holes in it where you can tie down characters and objects so they can hold their own weight. And like if I wanted my armature to be walking, since it can't hold its own weight on one foot, I'd be able to tie it down so there's enough resistance that it could be able to step, and I can incrementally move it with each photo that I take. And actually, I built this armature myself too. I found a bunch of different pieces from a hardware store and just figured out a way that I could piece them together that would make it able to be moved but still hold each movement that I make, because in stop motion animation it's a series of photos that you line up together and play really quickly so that it mimics the idea of movement and it looks like the object's moving. And so this is what's called a ball and socket armature, which is more sturdy than like if you made one out of wire, which wire usually breaks, so I wanted to make something that would actually be able to last for a long time and I would be able to use on several projects that I plan to create. So
it's awesome. So
yeah.
How did you get into stop motion animation?
Like I said before, I've grown up loving stop motion films. The first film I ever saw was The Nightmare Before Christmas, and soon after that I saw The Corpse Bride, and then I saw a lot of other films that weren't necessarily stop motion, but they had aspects of that. Like in Beetlejuice, there's the snake that is stop motion but inserted into the film, and so I always loved how creative those different ideas were that people had for stop motion films, and that you can really make anything with it. So I thought it'd be fun to explore that.
Is this your first kind of film that you've done in stop motion animation?
Yeah, even though it's not a full film, it's actually the first time I've ever animated in stop motion before. And I was actually really surprised at how easily I understood it, because it kind of seemed like a daunting task before I started, but then after I got into the swing of things, I really started to love it and get a hang of the techniques and different things that it requires.
So what kind of problems did you run into while creating this piece?
So in one of the shorts that I filmed, I have a piece of clay that's bouncing up and down, and to get it to look like it's mid-air, I had to have another piece of clay under it, and I had to go into Photoshop and erase the piece holding it up for each frame that I took. And so I had around like 160 photos that I had to erase a piece of clay out of. And sometimes like the program would crash, and so I'd have to redo a bunch of them, but I made it through, so yeah.
So before we end, could you show us how it works?
Yeah, okay, so there's a bunch of different joints on the armature. I based it off of like the human figure, and so the knees can bend. I mean, there's elbow joints. It can bend forward and backwards. There's all kinds of movements that it can do. So now that I've talked about my project, let's hear a little bit about yours. It's an ambitious film about a moment in the life of Walt Disney.
It is. I chose to focus my film on a pivotal moment in Walt Disney's life. Before we go any further, let's take a look at the film.
Hold up! You're walking so fast!
I'm sorry, Lillian. I'm just so excited. I don't want to be late. What if there's a...
I know, Walt, this is really important to you, but what if they don't give you the money?
Listen, Charles Mintz might be a rat, but Oswald the Lucky Rabbit is a gold mine. You won't want to lose him. Mintz might be the boss, but I'm in charge.
I know you are. I'm just worried, that's all.
Look, there's nothing to be worried about. If this doesn't work out, then I'll find a new company to sell Oswald. Well, I have 15 minutes, so I have to be up there. Will you be okay by yourself?
Of course I will. How often does a girl get to go to New York?
Well, it's 12:45 now, so meet me back here at 2 o'clock, we'll say.
Sounds great.
All right. can do this. You can do this.
Mr. Disney, so glad you could make it. Please come in.
Thank you. Mr. Mintz, as you know, you pay me and my company $2,250 per cartoon. Now, as the demand of Oswald cartoons goes up, I've had to hire more animators to do the drawings, which has been costly. I know you're running a business here and can't afford any large changes in budget, but, well, to keep my company afloat, I'd ask for a $250 raise per cartoon.
So, Mr. Disney, this is what I'm going to do for you. You produce one cartoon every 2 weeks, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, maybe you are too busy. I will accept one cartoon every 3 weeks. Is that suitable for you?
But, sir...
And about your pay? I think that $2,250 is unsuitable for a man of your worth.
Oh, well, thank you, sir. I'm glad that
How about $1,800 a cartoon? Take it, or I will ruin you. I already signed your key artist to start working for me.
You're lying. My artist would never go behind my back. And maybe I'll just take Oswald somewhere where I won't be treated like a joke.
Take Oswald? How are you going to do that when I own him?
What are you talking about?
You signed him over for Universal, right? Well, we own Universal. We own everything. You have nothing, Walt.
Thank you, Mr. Mintz, for your time today. If you want Oswald this much, you can have him. I'm done here. Yes, I'm trying to connect with Roy Disney. This is his brother, Walt Disney. Thank you. Roy, I need you to do something really important for me right now. Check something for me. Mintz told me he already signed every animator we have. Can you find out if that's true?
Look, Walt, I was gonna tell you once you got back home. After you left, I discovered that we lost almost everyone. But we still have Ubierix, and we still have 2 assistant animators.
Who are the other 2?
Johnny Cannon and Les Clark. They're both great workers.
I like Clark. Good guy.
Walt, these are the last 2 we have from Earworks Disney. They're expecting good news. What are you gonna tell them?
I'll think of something. Just don't tell him yet, all right? I'll see you soon.
Well, it better be good. Bye, Walt. He's gonna be the death of me.
Being so quiet. It's not like you. Are you sure you're okay?
I'm just busy.
Well, what are you working on?
Nothing yet. It's not finished.
Okay. Is it something new?
I've sort of been having this little guy crawling around in my mind for a while now. Good thing, because it's kind of my last shot.
Don't say that. You were so creative and so talented. You were so dynamic.
Lillian, stop.
I mean it, Walt. The way your mind works, the way you talk about your ideas. If this idea doesn't work, I promise you'll have another idea the next day.
Well, let's hope so. It's how we're keeping the lights on. Finished.
Ooh, can I see? Oh, he's so cute. What's the little guy's name?
Well, I'm still thinking about it, but I'm liking the name Mortimer Mouse.
No, he needs a cute name. Something like Mickey.
Mickey Mouse.
Well, you don't have to use it if you don't want to,
No,
but I thought...
I like it. Looks like a Mickey.
Are you okay?
Yes, I'm just a little nervous.
Well, just think. One day they'll all be saying it was all started by you.
No, they'll say it was all started by, what was his name again?
Mickey.
Mickey. They'll say it was all started by Mickey. They'll say it was all started by a mouse.
That was great. Thanks, Max. So, what was it about Walt Disney that really inspired you to make this film?
So ever since I was younger, I was always a Disney fan. I would go to the museums, go to Disney, and everything from animation to actually building the park I was obsessed with. And I've always kind of looked at him as someone I'd want to follow in his footsteps and become like how he was. So making this film really kind of connected back to my childhood and kind of was a good ending spot in my high school career to see how he kind of went from Walt Disney, the animator who wasn't famous or people knew about him, to Walt Disney, the man we all know and love and who's created a whole universe for his art and for his pieces.
So, can you walk us through your process of making the film?
Yes, so it started all the way back in January, and while I was kind of scripting and figuring out what story I was going to choose, I was trying to figure out what story I wanted to use, whether it be the story of him creating Oswald or creating Mickey, or even I was thinking about doing while he was trying to create the park and the problems he had to go into. I thought the most inspirational story of his life was when he got the rights turned down of Oswald and created the Mickey Mouse and kind of told the whole world, you can stop me here, but I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep going until I make something that's going to stick around.
So, did you have any trouble finding era-appropriate props and clothing and things like that?
Not really. I told the actors that costumes are their responsibility because there's so much going on that I couldn't really focus on. But locations was a little bit more difficult. The most difficult thing I tried to find was the train, because I really wanted to find an actual train that we could go on and we could either ride or we could shoot on or something around that kind of sorts. Because my worst fear was going to have to be setting up a train location in my basement and try to make something that kind of resembled a train. Mm-hmm. So we first went down to Union Station and we were asking about going on the train, seeing if we could get a private train, if we could buy enough tickets to fill up the whole cargo train so no one else could get onto it. And they're like, there's no way you're going to be able to do that. It's going to cost way too much. But they referred us to a place called the Northwest Heritage Center, where we got to meet, where I met, they led us to the Northwest Heritage Center, where I found trains that were just sitting in empty lots, and they graciously let us use their trains and let us film on it. And it wasn't exactly era appropriate, but it was close enough shots where it didn't really matter and it looked real enough.
So you talked a little bit about the trouble you had trying to find the perfect fit for the train. Were there any other roadblocks throughout this process that you came across? And if there were, like, how'd you overcome them?
Not necessarily roadblocks, but things that I either had to reshoot or just kind of let live. One of the things I had to reshoot was actually, we used a telephone scene in Union Station where it was a modern day telephone with a modern day payphone. Mm-hmm. I never recorded the actual shot, the body of the phone, because that obviously wasn't period, but I thought at least the phone part that you put up to your ear was, not knowing that back then they still had the thing you speak into the wall and you put the cup up to your ear. So that's something I kind of had to just kind of let live and be the way it was. But one of the things that I didn't actually find out till later was the bricks on most buildings in Portland have slits cut into them, which was not period and not East Coast, which was where this is filmed. This was filmed in, or this was, it was filmed here in Portland, but it takes place in New York. In New York, they have regular old brick buildings that not really any design to them, they were just bricks. But for whatever reason in West Coast, mostly in Portland, there's slits cut into them, which, unless you're an expert on these kind of things, no one's going to pick up, but it's something that I found which was kind of weird.
Yeah, so you consider this a proof of concept film, right? So where do you plan to go with it next?
I really kind of want to make this a film that I take and I make a full-length feature, where maybe this is the beginning scene of him finally coming up with Mickey, and then all the different stages that came after that, whether it be coming up with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and making that the first ever animated feature-length movie, to him creating the park, to him passing away.
Both of our films have really strong ties to our childhoods. I know mine, I grew up loving stop motion films, and so I really wanted to figure out like what it was, like what the magic behind them was, and try it out for myself. Care to explain your connection?
Well, at least with this story, I was telling the story since I was a little kid. It was actually kind of funny. Back in 4th grade, I dressed up as Walt Disney for a presentation and did a whole PowerPoint presentation on Oswald and how he lost the rights and how he came up with Mickey Mouse. So this story has always been kind of floating around my head, and even back then I told myself this would be an amazing story to create and make a movie. So that's always been kind of like jumbling my head, and me wanting to go into a career that involves film and hopefully something that goes along with Disney and something around that's kind of Disney-esque. This was really important for me to kind of make, to kind of show myself that I can be part of this world and that it's really easy if I just kind of apply myself. So Megan, we've both just graduated from VSAA class of 2017. I'm going into a career of film and going to Cal Arts in the fall to practice my filmmaking and go there for their film and video classes. What are your plans for next year?
So this summer I'm hoping to produce about a 5-minute long stop motion film, and then next year in the fall and for 4 years I'm planning on going to WSU Vancouver so I can study their digital technology and culture program and learn graphic design. And meanwhile, while I'm taking those courses, I have some connections at Leica Studios in Portland, so I'm hoping to get a possible internship there. So I know my dream job is to work at Leica Studios, and I'm going to do everything I can to make it there. So what is your career goal?
I'm still trying to figure that out. There's always a lot of things that I always thought would be fun to do, but not help financially. If it was all up to me and everything that I could do, I would open up my own film studio and produce films from there. But I've also thought about making documentaries and being a documentary filmmaker, or maybe going into marketing and making commercials and stuff. We're just about out of time. Megan, any thoughts?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. I think it's really great that we were both able to connect to our childhoods through our senior projects and kind of come full circle, and I'm really excited to see where both of us end up in life. If you want to see more student films, check out the district's YouTube page, youtube.com/VanusDTV. Look for the Young Filmmakers playlist. I'm Megan Bina.
And I'm Max Abel. Thank you for watching the Young Filmmakers Project.